papers. I just haven't. I tried using
and it surprises me every time.
I was trying to use Command last night and work on it.
No, I don't know why it's so loud. Okay. So we're going to go over, did you guys take papers? I saw that somewhere missing from over there. So you guys, everybody has their papers. So today, good morning. Oh, she didn't. Oh my gosh. Didn't we talk about you being very helpful? I know. Because I didn't assign it properly. So we have two things that we're going to go over today, and we are going to blend a lot of them for you to actually have things that you're going to do over the weekend. So, oh, here we go. There's Hilton. Have you guys met Hilton? Yes. You do the first day. Oh, you did on the first day? Good morning, Hilton. I think you're the only one on Zoom, if you can hear me. So let me share my screen. Oh, oops. Okay. So what we're going to go over today are two things. We're going to spend some time on our goal setting and making sure that we write that down, and also how that can be applied in our system. So Command has a lot of things in them. You know, Charlie, you may not have really explored much with Command yet.
It doesn't work yet.
Not yet? Okay. It probably will today. Okay. I think you're on about the day that it typically will happen. So when it comes to Command, there's so much that you can do in Command. You can go in and set your goals. That's part of the process, as well as it does have the client-facing customer interaction system. The CRM is also part of that. But the goal part is really kind of a cool thing. So when it comes to our goal setting, we've talked a little bit about this, and I just want to see, have you thought of, now that you've been with us, I know that we've had conversations maybe a little bit more recently, and yet it's like, yeah, he's newer than you. Newer than you. They're all newer than you. What amount of money or what number of transactions do you want to have? So just as a refresher, go ahead and you can write that down on, everybody has a notepad, whatever that number is, because it can help us when it comes to the class. If it's changed, and it might have changed, and it also might change again in like 2 more weeks. What commonly will happen is you're finding out the tasks that are involved in actually what you need to do to create the pieces of business. And so sometimes you're thinking, oh, I need to do more of that, and that's going to take longer. It might be something outside of your comfort zone. It might be something that might cost a little bit that you want to do. And if that's the case, then we want to make you may not have that fund today, and you may need to work towards having that fund. So that number might actually change as time goes on. Good morning, Jack. Do you have both papers? That's okay. Do you have both papers or two sections?
No, it's just the one.
Is it just the one? Oh,
yeah. Sparks 5.
Oh, you didn't get the elements part?
I got both, but maybe there wasn't enough up there.
There may not. Okay, give me just a moment. Let me finish this part. I think I might have them on the printer because I can actually see.
I'll go check.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm pretty sure I can see them on the printer, so I think that's what happened. So whatever that number is, we're going to work on, I'm going to work using a number, and you can either multiply or divide and make it a smaller number or a bigger number, depending on what you want to have happen. So let's go through some of that. The big things that we're going to focus on today are going to be the setting the goals and attending training and getting coaching. You need to know how to actually do this. Oops. So who we are and where we want to go to. Let me start that again. Reading. Who we are and where we want to go determine what we do and what we will accomplish. Have you guys had a little bit of an idea of what we do as real estate agents? What our job is? Okay, well, so we're on section 5, so we're kind of getting there. Is that the right paper? Are those the right papers?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just trying to sort out
Separate them?
facts.
Thank you. Maddie's really good at it. She's just.
Yeah, you just 1 through 18.
So are there 2 papers there? And you
There's
have
2
2, you have the
sets.
2 of them? Perfect. There are 2 sets.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Yeah, because when I saw from a number perspective, I did have the right amount. So excellent. So as we're setting these goals, how is it that we're going to accomplish them? So we've been talking a little bit about what it is that we do as real estate agents. So let's just kind of go over that. We have a small enough group, and Hilton, you're welcome to chime in at any time. Actually, don't say anything yet because I have it too loud. Let me do this again. Let me adjust this before we get started. That part. No, that should not be too loud. It tends to be this one. I still think it's going to be. Okay. So how do we think that we're going to make the most amount of where is most of our business going to come from? What are we thinking? Anybody want to chime in? It can be anything. I'm just.
You mean how are we?
Yeah. Where do we think most of our business is going to come from? I'll give you some examples. Is it that I do a lot of things with my neighborhood, let's say. And so because of that, I plan on having 50% of my business. And some of this is approximate, but I'm thinking 50% of it is going to come from my neighborhood because people are knowing me. They see me walk my dog. Some of this is being made up. People love my husband. He's a very opinionated person. So all of these things I'm going to be doing, and therefore my expectation is that most of my business is going to come from those people that I'm interacting with, but actually happen to be in my neighborhood. Do you guys have any thoughts on where you're going to have it?
About it, I think the more open houses that I can do, I think, because when I shadowed you, just the amount of people you get in front of and are able to have conversations with, I really think that's going to help me.
It typically can. And keep in mind, the open house that we did had a good number. And there are sometimes when you have an open house that does not have good numbers at all. And then sometimes the open house can have more, can have more like what we saw.
I do think you're obviously getting in front of people that are looking. As to being at the grocery store and just talking.
They have an interest in some, absolutely. Okay, good. So open houses.
I agree. Open houses are probably your warmest leads because it's people looking for houses. So I love the open house idea too. The question I have about open houses is when, say it's, say it's your listing and you're at the open house. How do you feel about other agents being there, greeting people when they come in and stuff? Wouldn't those, they're kind of your leads?
Correct. So typically you don't have as many people at an open house that we did. I mean, that was because I needed you guys to have that exposure.
I meant
commonly you're going to have it either by yourself or with one other person.
Okay.
So you have 2 and you just go back and forth. Okay. And it's like this person came in, you're there, you're in first position, so you talk to the first person. Maddie is there and as well, and she talks to the next person, and you just do that. You go back and forth, and sometimes it's going to be heavier on one person, and then other times you just have to know this is a long game. Yeah. That if you're going to do 6 or 10 open houses in the next 2 months, then the likelihood of you being the one, if you're going to do them with another person, that the likelihood of you being the one that actually has some clients from the efforts that you're putting in is high. Because you're doing enough of them, but you have to do enough.
And if it's your listing, you're the only one there.
You can be the only one there in somebody else's. It's very common to do open houses by yourself. We happen to be, it's pretty hot and you tend to have more people coming through the doors right now. And so if it's a pretty hot listing, I would say, especially for the first few that you do, to have
I want to be with somebody else, but I'm saying as for someone that's been in the business, if it's their listing, they're doing it on their own. Correct?
No, not necessarily. Okay. We did it because for that particular listing, she was on vacation, right? So she was in another state. Sometimes also, keep in mind, a top agent may have multiple listings going on at any given time. So a few things are happening with an open house. If you have more than one listing, you may not be able to do both open houses. You can't do, you're physically not able to do both open houses at the same time. And the other thing is you want to make sure that your seller is serviced properly, and they may feel, whether it's true or not, they may feel that open houses can help sell the house. And that's debatable, and there's reasons to think either way. For the most part, it's how we get business, we as agents. So a busy agent also could have other clients that they're already committed to, that they have a client that they've been working with, and that client needs to go and see homes at 1 o'clock on Saturday afternoon. And sometimes you have to take, not sometimes, you always have to take care of the clients that you have, or you will lose them. That part of it is more important than the next client that you have. Right. And yet there is a balance with all of that. So open houses probably.
Yeah, you know,
or maybe a mixture.
For me also, interest groups that, you know, now that I've been living in Florida for almost 3 years, I've got to get my interest groups a little more local. You know, I've got the golf group, and I have a guitar players group, a harmonica players group, a car group, all these groups, but they're not local to here. So I've got to
find locals. All of those exist around here too.
Yeah, I know. I have to get involved in the local.
Coffee and Cars tomorrow morning.
Where? What?
I want to say it's at Ford's, which just opened up the restaurant in
Oh,
GC.
okay. Yeah.
If you're going, I'll tell you to look for my husband. He's nice most of the time. I make fun of him.
What's he gonna bring?
We have an i8.
Oh, nice.
i8.
Yeah, I'll bring an Infinity Q60 tomorrow.
I won't remember.
Okay.
You're lucky I had to think about what we have. But his best friend has a few different Ferraris and Lamborghinis and stuff like that, so they always go to the car house. Which is, by the way, you don't have to have that car. You can still go.
Yeah.
You can totally go to a car group.
But then
as long as it's open to the public.
Yeah, I've got to get all that stuff local to here.
Just look up coffee and cars.
You know, actually, I've seen that come up.
Go to it.
Yeah.
Go to it, and I'll tell it. Yeah.
One thing I could add.
Please.
Don't lose track of the ones you're walking away from. You've got all these groups and all these individuals up north. Yeah. All right, stay in contact with them. Let them know you're a realtor here in the Sarasota, Medical County areas. And the last question on the email, who do you know that might want to relocate here?
That's a great thing that I forgot about. You know, I put that on my Facebook and my LinkedIn this week that, you know, I joined Keller Williams, and, you know, it's like bass fishing. Everybody hits on the drop, you know. Yep. And somebody said, you know, or a couple people said, you know, I got some friends thinking about relocating to the Gulf Coast, but they're looking farther south.
Okay.
What do we do?
That's okay. Let me know. I have friends down there I can refer them to.
That's
and
what
you get a referral fee.
I didn't know if that was the right answer, but that is what I thought, so that's what I wrote.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah, exactly what he said. And these groups, the things that you are doing do not have to be considered here. We have a lot of people who haven't noticed. He has a bit of an accent that he's not necessarily.
No, I don't have an accent.
Well,
everyone else has a speech impediment.
Hey, I lived up north too.
Well, you're from New York, right?
Brooklyn.
I'm from Long Island.
Every
But
time I went out there, I got in trouble.
But all my parents' friends, because my parents grew up on Long Island, so a lot of them have money and they, you know, are looking to have homes in Florida. So and they know me since I'm a baby. So I'm going to reach out to all of them because a lot of them go to Naples and all that area. But even
they come here too.
Yeah,
they come here too, and they also go to the other coasts. And as he said, there are people in other places. So I'm happy to be a bit of a resource, especially in Boca down through Miami. I know people there. I lived on the East Coast of Florida and from there, and also in other places. So between myself, Brian knows a lot of people that are in the business as well all over, and there are other ways to find people as well. So your referral business can be broader, and I just wanted to put a bow on the open house part as well, because as he said, we can do an open house so we're in front of people, physically in front of people, and you can also do online open houses. I'm calling them open houses, home previews, views, any of that type of thing as well. And that hits up north, out west, central, wherever, it hits everywhere, other countries. Any thoughts on what you're looking to do?
Well, I know my plan of sending my letters to people, my helping clients. I don't know what percentage of those people are going to be like wanting to buy a house with me or from me. I like the open house idea. I also feel like maybe I could get into kind of the cold calling thing. I know it's not, a lot of people don't like it, but I feel like it could be good for me because at the open house, I felt so weird, like in person with people. Because I just didn't know what to do, so I feel like they could tell that my body language, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
It's the first time you've ever done that too.
Yeah, but I feel like maybe on the phone, like if I practice with the scripts and stuff, I could like fool them into thinking I like know what I'm doing, that kind of thing. Maybe that's the wrong approach, I don't know. But I would be willing to try it. I know a lot of people don't.
It's not necessarily that there's a wrong approach. I have seen, Jack probably has seen this enough as well, where you see someone who does something that you're like, that doesn't seem like that would be as good of a source of business as it actually ends up being. There are people that will rock different segments of this. And for you, that may be something that's like, I don't really know if I could do that really, really well. They're just people that are natural in different forums. So keep an open mind. Making phone calls, there's nothing wrong with making phone calls. It's just a matter of whatever it is that we're doing, there's going to be people that say no to us. They're gonna say, I have an agent, which there's things that you can say to them as well. They may say they're not interested. Somehow, some way, they're saying, you're not the person for me, or I'm just not interested in what you're selling. That will happen. It will be every single person that we shook hands with says, yes, please sell me a house. And yet there is going to be rejection to a certain level. And we just have to figure out what avenue will get us in front of the most people that actually say, yeah, I'll work with you, where you have a better ratio. Jack, what kind of things are you going to do in the next 12 months to grow your business?
Try and figure out a way. I'm gaining more and more insight, experience, and command, learning about just how powerful that thing is.
I heard you say that the other day. I was very happy.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal tool. Wasn't real excited about it initially, but it's coming.
I do remember those days.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me it's a little intimidating because I feel like there's so much.
Well, you know,
I want to learn because I know it will help.
Right, but you know what? Don't try and eat the whole elephant.
Yeah, not right now. Not right now.
Okay, take a piece of it. Take a piece of it. The other day I was just get your profile set up.
Right.
All right. Once you get your profile set up, then you can start adding your contacts. All right. There are several different ways you can do that. You can go to Scott Leroy. He'll do it for you in Mass. I wasn't happy the way he did it. You can download your contacts to an Excel spreadsheet and upload them that way. It's really not difficult. What I find for me is, believe it or not, to manually enter the contacts, because then it gives you an idea. You sit there, you go through it, and as you go through that process, it brings up questions in your mind, and you say, "Oh yeah, okay." One thing that is to me is critical in the contact. There are notes. Okay. When you speak with somebody, you find out what they're looking for, put those requirements in the notes. Because then you've got it. You know what they're looking for. And if they're looking for a 3-2 with a den for $400,000 in a gated community, don't send them a $1.5 million listing out in the Lake Club. It's not going to work.
You're not listening.
No.
You're telling them that you're not listening to them.
All right. And try to explain to them what it is and why you're saying. And then just stay in contact with them, okay? Go ahead and start working on the smart plans. Figure out how to manipulate them and use them. As you get more and gain more experience, you can get into the designs and all that other stuff. But for the basics, you just want to know how to manipulate the contacts.
Yeah, he's got a really good point. And I would even say if you do utilize Scott Leroy marketing, one of the things that you can do is, let's say that he puts the things into the system for you. It doesn't dismiss that you need to go in yourself and put in those notes. That's the way that I am a fan of having them uploaded. Yeah.
Specifically, notes and tags.
Correct. You have to go in and see what type of tag would make sense. They're looking at single family homes, condos, out by the water, in Lakewood Ranch, whatever tags make sense to you so you can start to identify them, because think of what would I be sending them? Am I sending them condos? Am I sending them downtown Sarasota stuff? Am I sending them specifically Lakewood Ranch stuff? And those types of tags will start to mean a lot more to you as time goes on. But the notes, you have to have notes. You guys went to the open house. From the people that we were meeting, especially Saturday, we had the ability to have, there's no way that I would remember out of all the people that I met, which one is the one that is looking for the more than 6 foot pool. Right. I mean, I will actually remember because it was very distinct.
Did you do that right after you were done talking to her?
I did. I made notes on my phone.
In your phone?
Mm-hmm. And then I went back and I just added it to who they were. So I use my phone, and I may have mentioned that before, but I always let people know what I'm doing. Don't have them think that you're sending somebody a text message. It's like I just want to make a note that that's what you're looking for. So I'm going to put that in my phone, that type of thing. And it usually works out pretty well. You can use Notepad, whatever works for you, to be honest. It doesn't really matter. So thank you for pointing that out. He said a lot that I really want you to keep in mind, those notes, however do you do it, and also staying in contact with them. We gather people, but if you are not following up with them, they will forget you and drop you like a potato.
I've got another tidbit that I use.
Okay.
When I have someone looking for something, I will set up an alert in multiple listing services. This way, when something comes in that meets that criteria, they automatically get an email from the MLS. I find out about it. If it's a really nice listing, okay, I said, gee, who else in my database can I send this to? That's where tags come in, okay? You put a tag. They're looking for a single family house, maximum purchase price of $450,000. That's enough, all right? You can, at least for the tags in the search. Then what you do is you take that listing, the information from the listing, you go over to your command and you do a search on those 2 tags. Now all of a sudden, everybody in your database who's looking for a single family 2-2 with a den for $400,000 or less pops up in front of you. And everybody in your database is looking for that. You know what happens next?
Oh, I'm sorry.
They get an email.
Yeah.
Hey, look what just hit the market.
You said you did an alert in the MLS?
Yep.
For the oh, okay.
It's a 3-minute process. I can walk you through it real fast.
Oh,
story for another day.
Jack's going to be teaching classes. That's all that I heard. The entire thing. I was like, Jack just signed up for a class.
I don't know about that.
Well, the things that those tidbits, those are the activities. I know. Those are the activities that we actually are doing on the daily basis. That's our job. And if you remove the personal parts of that, and you turn everything automatic, there's no personal relationship. What he's doing is he's giving you examples of how there's a lot of automation in our system that you can utilize to then turn that information into personal communications with everyone. So it's not about putting everybody into the system and then just tagging them and putting them on all these automatic things without the personal interactions, that's not going to work. So let's use the pool. Were you guys all there on Saturday? No, you were Sunday. You were Sunday. So there was a guy that needed to have a pool that was deeper than 6 feet. Very distinctive, and we had great conversations. So that particular person, if you sent him properties that did not fit, I mean, the pool thing is a little bit of a challenge. However, imagine the communication that I would have with that person if I sent him not only the type of house that he's looking for, which was fairly general, I would say. It's not crazy, the house. But if I were to send him something as like, I found you a deep pool or something like that, and I was able to send him a listing that had exactly what he had asked, that he was just really, that's the it property for him, that's a better communication. So we have a way that I can get, yes, in the community or in the area, homes that he's looking for, but that little element by having things come to me directly, which is how I do things with somebody like that, have it come to me directly, and I'm able to look and see, okay, maybe this is a house that was built 20 years ago and they did have a deeper pool. And then I'm able to take that and just almost forward that information over to him. So it makes it, I just added, a sentence or two, make sure he has the link, and that could be the it property for him. So I kind of like pulls some of the stuff that he was just saying together. Anything to add?
That's why the comments are so important.
Yeah.
You do a really broad search, and when they come up, you say, oh, this guy's looking for a pool. That one doesn't have a pool. He doesn't get the email. You sort it out.
Yeah, please don't say, yeah. There are like big things. Do not dismiss those and send people the wrong stuff.
Did that house sell?
It did.
It did?
Yep.
Excellent.
Yeah. And it was not to the
Oh, the guy that.
Sunday guy.
The guy that knew.
I was like, what day was that? I know who's buying it. It was an agent. It was California guy's client has the contract.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, California guy. Okay, so continue. Keep in mind the things that we're doing. So this is really just a very simple goals type of graphic. We're going to be thinking of things that we're going to be doing. And there's the in-between, the time and the effort. So the actions that we are consistently doing are going to prove to be the outcome. So I can tell you myself, you probably have seen this even in other businesses, that there are those that you may think, really, that person is a real estate agent or whatever it is that they do. They might be in finance. And you're like, get that kind of vibe from them. They don't seem like that would be something that they do very well. So in Keller Williams, there used to be someone who was a president of our company. This was probably maybe 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, something like that. And this gentleman, when you would hear him talk, he was, now I say this because he had great successes, and I don't mean in any way from a critical perspective. I mean it from you didn't hear him talk and teach a class or even meet him in person and get the impression that he was an overly social person. Like real estate agent wasn't necessarily the label that you would put on this person. And yet he was consistent on everything that he did. And when he was a real estate agent, he would, this is Chris Heller. I don't know if you ever, did you ever see anything that he taught? Very calm, not an overly emotional kind of individual. And yet he had great successes and ended up that he was a president of Keller Williams for a while. And I would say from anyone who had worked with him, he was out in California as a real estate agent, it was all about, he just had the consistency. He made calls, expires, database, for sale by owners, anyone. And that's just what he did every single day. And I looked at it as a person who, that's not my favorite thing to do, is just to call people that I don't know. I wouldn't say that that's my preference. And yet I thought, well, when I heard him and doing things teaching and so forth, I also thought to myself, well, well, I feel like I'm a little warmer than he is. And I feel like I could probably connect with people a little bit better. But the thing is, he knew what he was talking about and he just continued to do it. And he did it enough that he had great success. So the reason that I just brought him up in that particular example is just like his whole success, I feel, and he would even say, was the fact that he just did what he was supposed to do over and over again. Even the things that were boring, it's not necessarily fun to spend 3 hours on the phone talking to people, people that you don't know. That may actually be a very boring part of the job, and yet he did it, and he did over and over again and found great success. So I just want to reiterate the fact that it's about the actions. Have consistency. It's very easy for us to say, oh, I saw somebody did a great, has a great business and everything that they do is all from Instagram. Everybody, this person, all that they ever do is go to events. You got to find out what you enjoy doing and be consistent in it and know that some of these things are going to take months before you start seeing those big results. However, we do want to have some fast results as well because we can only last so long without having some commission and growing our business. But the consistency is the key. It really is. Even if you're not great at it, you will find, what is that term? Every squirrel finds a nut at some point.
Even a blind squirrel.
Even a blind,
yeah.
You can't. If you call enough people, there is someone that's going to be frustrated that needs to sell their house, and they will say, yeah, come on over. You need to call enough people to have that happen. And the better you are at it, hopefully you don't have to call as many people if that's where you go.
Where are we getting, how do we get these leads?
I actually have a system that has phone numbers that you could, if you choose to go that way. I would also say, as a new agent, I wouldn't put it on your calendar to have that every day I'm going to spend 3 hours calling expires and for sale by owners necessarily today. You might 2 weeks from now say, okay, this is what my business model is going to be. I'm totally good with that. That's what you want to do. My intention is really for you to get out there and talk to people, open houses, and it's as much as you can be in front of people is probably where we're going to find business faster. So it's all about those actions. If you have the consistency that you have that you're putting together a plan of action and you're consistently doing it and you put in the effort, you are going to have the bigger outcomes. So what are the what's, the how's, and the who? So the what is it that you're going to do? We talked a little bit about open houses. You want to add anything to some of the things that you've done in the past, as well as what you're going to do in the next week or two?
Contrary to popular belief and probably even the smart thing, I don't use social media. I just flat out don't have the patience for it.
But you have business from other things that you do.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, so that's not your thing, and yet you have other things.
I'm building a referral network to folks around the country.
Nice.
And again, in this way, utilizing Command, I can send them all listings here. Who do you know? All right, up in New York, then New Jersey, New England, all. You can send them a $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 listing, and they won't bat an eye. Okay. Who do you know wants to move to Florida?
Yeah.
With a listing like that, and it goes out to every agent up there. Mm-hmm. Or all the agents that I have referral agreements with. All right.
So referrals is like is that your main thing right now?
No.
Okay.
No.
What's your main thing?
Right now it's just phone calls. Okay.
And you call for sale by owners and expireds.
I call for sale by owners. I call expireds. Yeah. Typically, for sale by owners will either answer the phone or return the call. But the first question they ask is, do you have a buyer for it?
Yeah.
Be ready for it. It's coming. The second statement they make is, I'm not in a hurry. If you have too bad, just the seller. I'm not looking for somebody that's not in a hurry And I'm not looking to list your house, I'm looking to sell it. When do you want to move?
And we have a book full of scripts.
Yeah, be yourself. Be yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't imagine you not being yourself if we haven't.
And you know what? I tried it the other way. It didn't work.
It didn't work out. It didn't work out. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask him, like, how long have you been doing it?
About 5 years.
When you first started, is there anything that you feel like was very successful for you in the beginning?
Open houses.
Open houses.
Okay. I got away from open houses particularly because of COVID.
Right.
All right. I'm one of those. I will not wear a mask.
Well, that was. I just don't like wearing
I
it.
just-
glad it's
I-
over with.
You know what?
I'm almost over with.
A lot of people got sick. It was a tragedy for a lot of people, but I don't buy a whole lot of the stuff there. But anyway, that's a whole.
That's a different thing. But you did.
Stopped for a while.
I'm sorry.
It's the open houses were.
It was only for about 2 months that we really didn't have open houses much. And then for some months after that, they had lighter turnout, but it really wasn't. Yeah, but we did virtual showings and we did virtual open houses. And we had, as in this office, as well as many of the offices that I have relationships with people that do what I do, we had very similar numbers with the people that expressed an interest. So it didn't hurt us as far as capturing people. It just didn't. But the market that we have today is a little bit different. And also the market will be different again, whether it's a few months from now or a year from now, the market will be different. So we do need to have a couple of avenues, and we will go a little bit further into that part because you can't lean on one thing. So as he said, he did not do open houses last year that much or at all. And he still has had some business. So he just switched and did something different. It's not that he stopped being a real estate agent. He just did things differently. That's all.
One of the great takeaways from open houses early in the process, it reinforces the confidence that you know what you're doing. The more you do it, the more confident you get, the more that shows in your conversation, how you speak with people, how you interact with them, and how you build a rapport.
Yeah, and you're getting it in a short period of time.
Yeah.
It's a phenomenal training and learning experience, as well as it tends to be. It's where I have my first client. That's where I got my first client, was from an open house.
My first open house was a $505,000 sale.
See, very good.
I love to hear what was for each person in the beginning.
Yeah. And I've had, and Jack probably the same, like these obscure person calls that you met a year ago, or that a friend of a friend of a friend told you to call, and you're like, I did all this work and phone calls, or I did 3 open houses and I didn't get anything, and then some random person calls you, right?
I literally chased a couple out of the house. All right. And I got their contact information. All right. They want to know part of this stuff. I literally chased it on the front porch. I got their contact information. All right. They bought a $350,000 property in University Park. Okay. You don't know, and it was an open house. They said, well, you never sell the open house. I've done it twice. All right. One of them I had to chase. It all depends on your mindset.
Yeah, we have those things happen. So you are going to have that consistency though. You're going to need to figure out what the what is, know the how, and part of it is you did have a shadowing experience, and there are more ways that you can learn how to do great open houses. There's all kinds of videos out there. Listen to the next time that we have an open house class. There's all types of ways for you to learn how to do these things better, and just continue to learn and go with what's happening in the market so that you can, whether you need to do more open houses or bring somebody with you because it's a busier market, those types of things. So it's got to be the how. So the what, the how, and then of course, the who. Who is it that you're looking for to be your client? Could be one of the questions. And are you putting yourself in front of that dream client? So if you want to do most of your business in Lakewood Ranch, then as often as possible, and you see the opportunity to do an open house in Lakewood Ranch, do an open house in Lakewood Ranch. If you're looking that you want to sell luxury listings and get into that world, then you're going to need to do things to get yourself in front of a luxury client. If you're looking for waterfront, go to the beach, knock on doors if you can. There's a lot of people, when we get to about October, you start seeing it, and of course in season, walk in the beach. Oh, that sounds kind of weird, but doing things that are out by the beach, if you're looking for those that are coming here and staying here during season, you gotta put yourself where they are. There's lots of people that are around here too.
Be open to opportunities, that's all.
It is, but you gotta be.
Where it's gonna come from.
Where you have to meet people though. It's not gonna happen overall, just those random phone calls that you meet one person that ends up referring you to 10 other people. That can happen, but it's more that you've got to meet 10 people to get the one referral. You've got to work backwards.
And we have to get their information. We can't just give our card because then we'll never hear from them, right?
Ideally, yeah, it just takes more of that action.
Yeah.
Whereas when we get their information, and you know, we do have a lot of ways to connect with people. So if you find out what they're looking for, and you have, or you find out who they are, and there's a connection in that way, you might be able to connect with them on social media, or you might be able to connect with them on LinkedIn, as well as phone calls and other things. There's a lot of avenues if you decide to go that way. And you may not. He has business and wants nothing to do with. Are you on any of them? Or do you do anything with them? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, but it doesn't stop him from having real estate business. It's not the only way to do it. Okay. So if we were to put all of this together, or start putting it all together, there's a dollar amount. So you had a number that I asked you at the beginning. Whatever that dollar amount is, if you were to imagine the average price point of this office, most of the time, and next month will be kind of skewed, but if you take the median number, that takes the very, very low and the very, very high out of it, there's a median number. We tend to be somewhere around 400,000. At the end of last year, we were closer to about 350, but the market has pushed us up to where we're averaging more around 400. If you do look at our numbers next month, because we do have that $6.9 million sale that is under contract. Yeah, she's under contract. So it will sell, I believe it's selling in June. So that means that the June numbers will be skewed. We do have luxury listings that sell, but not a lot of $6.9 million listings that sell on a monthly basis. So if you use 400,000 as your average, how many properties do you need to sell? If you're use your 2.75 as the commission rate. And let me explain that. So when you went to school, you might have heard them talk about 3% on each side is very common. It typically is pretty common. It's not always. And right now we do have sellers that are negotiating lower because we're selling so quickly. And they're not wrong in the fact that we're selling more quickly, but it's more common for us to see. This is what we're as an office seeing, a lot of sales that we as agents are getting 2.5% on either side. Can be lower too. So if you're going to use 2.75 as your average and you're selling a $400,000 property, how much money is that? 10 grand. 10 something. Is it 10? 10 even? Yeah, so if it's give or take, which is fine. You had a number of how many houses that you wanted to sell or a dollar amount, right, in the next 12 months. So calculate that out, that each transaction is going to be about $10,000. So if it's $10,000 and you were looking to make or have 12 transactions, remember how I said I was going to just use a number? Let's say I was going to have one transaction every month. If I'm averaging, then my gross number, the big number, would be $120,000 if it was 10. You're going to have some of those 3% sprinkled in. And honestly, once in a while, you'll have something that's even lower than 2.5%. If you're doing enough business, once in a while, you'll have that happen too. So that's your circle number. That's your big number in the middle. So the paperwork, isn't this scrapped in the paperwork? Was it? Maybe not. Yeah, I forget if this one was in here. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, on page 3. So put that in your middle or on your notepad or any of that. And then what else are we looking to have happen? And I happen to love the fact that we're going to donate $5,000 to a cat habitat, given that we live close to Cat Habitat. If you happen to be one of those crazy people that watch that show, I was one of them. I don't know how that happened, but we watched it. It was a crazy show. I'm sure you probably didn't watch it. It doesn't seem like your type of thing.
Go visit the big cat habitat.
Oh, I know. I saw the show. That's what we're talking about.
They're down on Palmer.
I've been there.
Boulevard.
I've been
Have
there.
you?
Yeah.
So if you watch the reality TV show about it, it's even worse.
I try to stay away from those things.
Yeah. I do too. It was a Saturday morning. I don't know how it happened, but we did it all day long. It was one of those weird things. And yet, you know, it was funny. And so, okay. Yeah. It was quite humorous. So whatever that is, whatever it is that you want that to be, it doesn't need to be a donation, but you need to start to calculate where do you want your money to go. Because if you are going to make $120,000 or whatever your number is, I gave you numbers. I'll be honest, a lot of corporate jobs you're making $100,000 plus or minus. That's not an uncommon amount. And what do they have to do? So if you're working a corporate job, I worked in pharmaceutical management, and I'll tell you, I was there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I didn't stop working for the most part until 8 o'clock at night. That's not that different than what I do now. It's a lot more fun, and there's a lot more money to be had as well. And I'm rolling it as a real estate agent. Now, granted, I'm in leadership, so it's a little bit different, and yet you're going to work hard to actually make that happen. So think about the things that are important to you. Your bills are going to be part of it. Taxes are something that you can't get away from. And there are marketing dollars as well as just running your business that is going to cost you some money. So you do need to make sure that you calculate that all into it, because at the end of the day, what is in your bank account that you can spend is not going to be $120,000. I wanted to turn it off. I almost did it. I could feel it happening. So let's understand how this all happens. Just as a reminder, many of you have already figured this part out. If you were to get $1, or if you were to think of it as 100%, there's money that's going to go in different directions. When it comes to the commission that is from every single sale, if it's 6%, then 3% is going to go on each side, then great. Half of that is going to be yours, half of that is going to be someone else's. You're going to have your taxes. You're going to have business expenses. The office as a whole has a $21,000 total that you pay to, and then you will have capped. Once you've done that, you then have 100%. So if I were to look at that, I'm making the commissions, and the commissions are going to bring me $120,000. That's my big number. Then I could easily just say that $99,000, yes, $99,000, I feel like that's wrong. It's totally right? That's going to be the amount after the office and after being part of Keller Williams and all the other things, that piece of it, doesn't mean that there's not other expenses, but that piece of it brings us to where we have $99,000. So still basically $100,000 that we're going to have made with the number that I'm using. You're going to have something that you end up taking home. So let's say you go and you spend between the technology and all the other things and marketing, and maybe you're spending 20% of the money that you make on that. Then that might bring you down to about $80,000 that is in your pocket, not in your pocket, sorry, you still have taxes. At the end of the day, is $120,000 enough? It may not be, but imagine if you were to work at that corporate job, what you would be bringing home as well. And talk to a tax person, make sure that you have that set up, or at least have an understanding of what you need to do, and also how much can be spent when it comes to your business that you can then use for write-offs and things like that. We as real estate agents can write off a lot. do anything illegal, but there's a lot of things that you can do, and make sure that you have that balance that will assist you when it comes to your taxes. Because it's kind of, well, my husband got mad that he's like, you should have, well, he didn't think that we should have spent as much money. And then when he talked to the tax guy, he was like, you really should have spent like blank, and he gave us a number. And I was like, see that other computer that I wanted? Should have done it. And he was like, you didn't tell me that. That's not how he sounds, by the way. Kind of sounds like that. Okay, so figure that part out, because at the end of the day, if you don't have enough money to buy the food that you intend on eating, you're not going to have anything to eat. So this just starts to calculate it. If your average sales price is $400,000, then you end up with $12,000 as far as the gross commission, but that's at 3%. If it's 2.75, it's closer to $10,000. Just use a number that makes sense. And also, if you end up that you're selling houses that are 500,000 and you sell, you know, the next 3 or 4 sales that you have is 500 or 600,000, then that's your current number. But you have to know that that can change easily. The thing is, we sometimes will sell a $100,000 or a $200,000 condo, and it skews the numbers. And then once in a while, we'll sell something that's like a $900,000 house, and that skews the numbers. So it's all about what your average is, because it's your average. And since you don't have an average yet, you then use the offices. Is that how you do it for the most part? You have your own average?
Who, me?
You use your own average?
Not really.
Not really.
I just keep going.
You just keep going, okay.
Yeah.
And for my attitude was, as a new agent, and still to this day, if somebody asked me to help someone that wanted to buy a house that was a $60,000 prefab home, I would help them, because at the end of the day, that's what our job is to help people buy and sell homes, period.
You never know what their friends might want.
Oh, that's so true. Okay. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time as far as going into this part, but I do want you to start thinking as a business person as to what this all means. So your net income, how much it is for our royalty and our cap, if there was to be business expenses. So this has $50,000 business expenses. I'll tell you, if your net income, is $100,000, you probably aren't spending quite that much in marketing or your business expenses. It's probably going to be closer to about $25,000 in your business expenses outside of cap, things like that. So that is your net. That's the amount that's in your pocket. That's the amount that is in your bank that you're able to spend. Your gross number would be different. Okay. So you have the ability in Command to actually set your goals. So I'm going to let you spend the time and kind of think about what we just talked about and set your goals and put them into Command. But what we have found is if we do that right now, it ends up being a little bit of a task to learn the system a little bit more. So I'm going to lean on that. And we do have, Blake is going to be here this afternoon. I feel like it's 3 o'clock. Is that what we said? Whatever's on the calendar, it's at 3 o'clock. Somebody know? Anybody remember? If you can, Blake is really good with Command. So if you can come to it, it will also be on Zoom. But if you can come and be here, I would definitely recommend. Is it 3?
I was looking at the daily digest thing. I don't see it.
Okay. I'll go and check. I'll go and check after this. So just remind me at the end that we do that. So setting your goals is something that I would highly recommend that you get into the system, and it can be adjusted. That's okay. It can totally be adjusted. But once you have that in the system, Command has the wonderful way of actually gauging as you're working with people. It starts to say, are you on track? Do you need something else happening? In some ways, it's kind of scary, because I'm always, I'm showing people how to do things from time to time. And once in a while, I'll look at it and it's like, oh, that number is terrible, or that number is amazing. And I'm like, oh yeah, but I have like 4 sample contracts in there. Or I was showing people that things, you know, how things fall through and all of that. And it's like, oh my gosh, I just like lost 100 grand. Like, how did that happen? I mean, logically, I know how it happens, but it's just kind of weird. So let me just do a little bit of a reminder. I may have spoken about this before, but I do want to just put a pin in it. The 80-20 principle is the fact that we are going to be doing things that are not necessarily going to be money generating things. You can get sucked into doing activities that are not necessarily going to get you where you want to go. And part of this can be that you can get into, whether it's social media, getting that set up if you decide to go and do some of that. Same thing with command. You can spend days and days on command. And I want you to keep in mind, the most important thing is for you to be having conversations with people. There are real estate agents out there that are killing it, that do not have command or do not have a CRM that they're using, and yet they're still having a great business. So I say that just so that you know, it's not that you have to have that. We're fortunate that we do have all of these tools, but if all you do is spend time on how to make the best email to send out to 10 people, and you spend 3 days doing that, you probably could have talked to 30, 50 people, and of those probably found someone that may be looking to buy, sell, or invest today. So you have to have a bit of a balance on making those things happen. Now, the other thing is paperwork is a time sucker for many of us. Me, not my favorite thing to do. And yet I can do it fairly quickly. But when it comes to being a real estate agent, I find value in transaction coordinators. And we have in the office, we can give you some references if you decide to go that route. You could definitely have somebody assist you. If you decide to do that, thing is, we can't do everything perfectly and get to a high level of business. We've got to lean on some systems and in some cases, some people. So just keep that in mind, that as your business is growing, it's not a horrible thing to have someone assist with, maybe there was an inspection that needs to be done and you're able to have another agent that you pay $25 to go and open up the door and, you know, stand there and wait for the inspector to do that. If that makes sense. I'm not saying that that makes sense all the time, because sometimes it doesn't, but there are ways that we can sometimes just buy back some of that time by doing it a little bit differently. The 80-20 principle is the fact that there are 20% of the things that we do are actually going to give us 80% of the results. The interactions are the most important things that you can possibly do. They tend to decide whether or not they want to work with you because they meet you, they like you, they trust you, and therefore they want to do business with you. If we do that successfully, we have more time to do the other things that are not real estate. Golf, time with the family, fun things at the beach, whatever you want to do. This is one of my favorite sayings. What is the one thing that you can do right now that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary? So we refer to the one thing. There is a book. Gary Keller wrote a book. And a lot of it is, not a lot of it, the whole thing is about the one thing. There is one thing that you will do well in this business, and we encourage you to focus on that one thing. I enjoy helping you guys. That's where I like to spend my time. And so when it comes to real estate, I'd rather help you write a contract or walk you through something than the other parts of real estate. I like to spend 80% of my time doing that. And that's what I've chosen to do. You may find that working with buyers or an investor group is your favorite thing to do because you like the numbers part of it. You like just the way that whole type of business is run. Find those things and spend 80% of your time doing that. And then the other things can be either leveraged out at when time permit, you know, when you get to that level, so that you can get to the income level that you want. Excuse me. Got my beverages. Okay. How are you guys doing on your goals? Do you feel like you understand how to put that together? At the basic level, I understand that there's going to be questions as time goes on, but we do want to ensure that the activities are going to give you the results that you want. I am going to run through the numbers as far as open houses because that seems to be something that many of you are interested in. I'll give you both of them. I'll give you the numbers when it comes to doing open houses as well as the numbers that it is when you are working with your database. So as far as open houses, if you were to do open houses on a regular basis throughout the year and you're doing 4 open houses every month, which is not a crazy amount, you can do 2 in a day. That'd probably be pretty tired, but you could do it. You could do 2 in a weekend. If you're new, you're looking to get business, so how can you, when you have the ability, go ahead and do 2 in a weekend, 1 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, or 2 on Saturday, and then you have Sundays off. Or you're showing houses to other people on those days. And if you're doing open houses and you're doing 4 of them in a month, you're typically on average, taking away the craziness of this past month, but looking at a 12-month average, you're probably going to have about 5 people walk through the doors. 5 people or 5 groups. You are definitely going to have times when you have more, and you're definitely going to have times when you have less. But the idea is hopefully you're having an average of 5. We're having an average of 5 that brings you to 20 on the monthly basis. So you have 20 people, if not more. I tried to do this on the low number. You have 20 people that you've had interactions with. Out of those 20 people, we tend to have about 20% of them, which would give us 4 of them that somehow, some way say, yeah, we can continue this conversation. It might be that they allow you to send out emails or text messages, or maybe even sit down and talk to them about selling or buying. It won't be all 4 of those. It might be, you might have a great month that you do have 4 of them, that you truly, every one of them, you start showing houses or listing a house. That could happen, but I'm trying to be a little bit conservative about that. So out of those 4, in a 12-month period of time, we tend to have about half of them, which would bring us to about 2. I'm using numbers that the last 6 years I've been in this type of a role. And these are what my numbers tend to be pretty consistently. So out of that, it's about 2 people. If I'm doing 4 open houses every month, I tend to see about 2 people that end up either writing contracts or listing a home. If I use that number, and I do that for a 12-month period of time, we're looking at about 24, right? 24 pieces of business. Now you can meet them, and if you do not have a systematic way of following up with them, you're gonna lose some. You need to have a systematic approach to where either they or someone they know may end up using you. But I'll tell you, if you're doing 4 open houses every single month, the likelihood of you having 20-ish plus or minus, and probably plus, pieces of business throughout the year is not unheard of. What will happen to many people is they'll stop when they start to get busy. It's just the way that it is. So because of this last year, it is now not that hard for you to do an open house virtually. And you could do your video on a whole nother day and still potentially, if you utilize the systems properly or at a higher level, you could then utilize that as one of the open houses. Now that number, I don't have strong enough data to tell me what that's going to be, but we have had, we are still getting contact information and having ongoing conversations with people because they interact with a Facebook Live video that we did about an open house, or a showing, which is, it's the same thing. They don't care what it's called, but you're showing houses and they're like, oh, that's a really pretty house. It's like, when we were thinking about, moving, and that ends up happening, you just have to do it a little bit more. So there are no excuses if there are no open houses. So you had an open house set up. You could go to a community, a new build community, and you can do some videos to where at least you're adding to your repertoire of open houses or showing homes. If you don't have anything, go out and do that. It's another way that you can be communicating with your database.
How do you take pictures and do a video of somebody else's listing?
It's only if they'll let you. So if you check with somebody in the office, and I know HouseMatch has, I saw something online. I think that they were doing open houses for a new listing that they have here in Lakewood Ranch this weekend. You can ask them, it's like, can I go to it either beforehand or another day, and can I do a video? And they'll either say yes or no. A lot of times, depending on what you're doing, they're pretty cooperative. They like people to advertise their
How do
houses.
you capture the information of what these people are looking for and things on a virtual open house?
You have to carry on the conversation. So they may comment, or they might send you a private message that says, you know, oh, where is that house? So they ask a question, and then you just continue that conversation. We have a sheet that's called a 411, and you have it. I think you have it. Can I say that? No, actually it's not.
Yeah, this one.
Oh, it is there.
In this part, page 7.
Oh, it's page 7. Yeah, I passed by it. No, I don't have page 7. Why do I not have page 7?
Try to find page 6.
I know, right? No, I got my pages all mixed up. That's all. Okay. Got it. I thought that I had seen it in this. So your 411. So I use the example of open houses, and I use an example of 12 transactions in a year, right? 1 a month. That's why I use this, just an easy number. It doesn't mean that that should be your number. Doesn't mean it's the right number. It's not the wrong number. It's just a number. So if I were to have an annual goal, whatever your annual goal is, I already asked you, put that up there. How does that calculate to how many transactions or how much money you're going to make on the monthly basis? That's what this part is. So if I have my monthly goal, in the instance that I'm talking about, that's 1 transaction a month. The whole point of the weekly goals, what am I doing that's going to bring me to the point that I end up having 1 transaction a month? Again, that's just in the example that I'm giving you. So I just backtracked the open house philosophy, right? The other thing can be that you have your database. So if you have your database and you're systematically interacting with your database, you're calling, you're asking questions, you're continuing and getting to deeper relationships with people that you already know, they will themselves or have a referral person that they will send to you that is looking to buy, sell, or invest. If you were to have a database of 200 people, we have pretty consistently, if you have them on that 36 touch of sorts, which we talked about, and there's lots of examples that are out there, they're on a 36 touch and you have 200 of them, that should bring you to 1 transaction from your database every month, if not more. It really is closer to about a 2%, which is even more than that. Yes.
Question. There's an 8x8 in Command. There's no 36 touch.
There is if you search to the library where everybody is broadcast their 36 touches. Okay. Yeah. There is, so Keller Williams has the, I don't know, what is it, like 20? Yeah, I think there's about 20 that are the Keller Williams examples. But if you go into the, I'm saying library, but where a lot of people have made their own and they just shared them, there are lots of 36 touches. But in the materials, it also shows you what they are, so you could create your own. And keep in mind, yeah, but keep in mind that a 36 touch here in this part of Florida is going to look different also from somewhere else. So imagine a 36 touch up north. When I lived in New Jersey, I was contacting people and letting them know about snow removal in the winter. It's like, have these things in place, this and that. Here, it's all about hurricane season, you know? So that is a touch that you could add to your repertoire if you decide to go very traditional communication style. Like what's happening now, what's happening at the end of the year. I encourage you to be a little bit more interesting about it. Like we're coming upon July 4th. There's probably going to be Great places to see fireworks, probably this year, since last year was, you know, kind of a bust when it came to that. A great communication to people that are looking in our area and what's great about our area, best place to see fireworks. That's a great touch for people. Okay. So what happens with this then is, what am I doing every single week that will ensure that I reach my monthly goal, that if I meet my monthly goal, I will meet my yearly goal. So this week, am I going to do 2 virtual open houses? As I already told you, it doesn't really matter if we're having real open houses, you can do a virtual one. Of course, if you have the ability to do one in person, that is better. I want you to do those as well. So get comfortable with the 411s. We do this with the kids. Big fan of doing this with kids. Like they wanted to go and do something. My son wanted to spend time, not spend time, back, I want to say 10th grade, just a long time ago. We wanted to go on an Alaskan cruise. I'll tell you, we were going to go on the cruise anyway, because I wanted to go on the cruise. I wanted to go to Alaska. And yet there were certain things that I got him to do about 3 months ahead of time. And it was all about, well, as long as you do this on a weekly basis, this is what's going to happen. So it's for grown-ups and for kids. Not above trickery when it comes to the children. Okay, so we don't want to lose focus. Have this kind of stuff up in front of you and visit it on the monthly basis, if not weekly. Weekly is actually good as well, but you need to stay on track. And what's going to happen if you're not on track and it's like the middle of the month? So when you get to, you know, many of you guys are newer. So let's say you get to July 15th and you are not where you want to be. Maybe your intention is to have 2 people that you're actively showing homes to, or that you have a listing. If you're not there yet, then what kinds of things can I do in the middle of the month? You can do this at any time, but you know, let's be very traditional about this. The 15th of July, is there something that I can do that if I am not on track to my goal, that by doing it on that day, as well as for the remainder of the month, it's going to bring me to the goal? So it could be that I'm going to make more phone calls. That's pretty traditional. That's what many of us will do. We'll say, you know what? If I get to that point and I don't have that, then I'm going to have on a Friday afternoon, I'm going to spend 4 hours instead of like 2 hours. I'm going to spend 4 hours just making phone calls. That's it. That's the only thing that I'm going to do because I don't have the amount of clients that I want. I didn't get the transaction that I wanted. And so that's what I'm going to do to make sure that I do not miss out on my goal for the month. Accountable people achieve results others can only dream of. So what happens if we don't meet that goal? Is there any kind of ramifications? I was by myself when I started as a real estate agent. As a single parent, it was all on me. So what would happen? I wouldn't eat. I wouldn't be able to pay mortgage or rent. I rented for some of the time and had a property. I mean, that was my reality. Was I was it. Is it that you don't get to go on that cruise? Is it that you don't get to buy the new car? Is it that you don't have the fund to fund kids' school, retirement, buy another property, buy your first property? What happens? And does that really matter? I mean, I'm at a time in my life that for the most part, if I don't reach the goal, we're not going to not eat. Hopefully, I mean, things can happen, but for the most part, shelter, food, a car, we're okay with that. But there's other stuff. I want to retire by the time I'm 65. That is coming up a lot faster nowadays.
No big deal.
It's no big deal.
Tried it, got bored.
Tried it. Oh no, it doesn't mean that I wouldn't be doing things, but you know, showing up to an office at 8 o'clock in the morning, maybe not. It's nice for that to be a choice rather than, although it is a choice, to be honest, I actually enjoy what I do for the most part. So what will happen if I don't actually get there? That's going to be up to you guys. So just keep that in mind, because you can go and get another job. You can go and do something different. You can. May not like it as much, may not make as much money, or maybe make more money. That's going to be choices that you make. Any questions on goals? There could very well be questions. Any questions on goals for the moment, on where you are? In your first year, is there anything that you think that, wow, that's a big number? Like, what would be a great big number that you're like, oh my gosh, if that happened, that would be a great first year? Do you have any perception on what a number could be?
Like the total of what we'd like to make.
Whether it's you or you just look at real estate as a whole, and it's like, you know what, a first year agent, if they made blank number, whatever that number is, that would be pretty amazing. Any thoughts about what that can be? I'm not saying that there's a right number or wrong number. I'm just wondering.
You know, I've got a target that I'd like to replace the money I take out of my retirement fund, so that I don't take it out for a few years. You know, and right now, you know, I know that my net would have to be about 200,000.
Okay.
Net after, you know, expenses and taxes. So to me, that's a BHAG, you know, big, hairy, audacious goal. You know, it's, you know, I'd be looking at what, you know, 25 plus sales a year. Yeah. To me, that seems. Is that a first year? Way out there.
So that's a way out there. So if you're on your way to doing that, what about the next 12 months?
Yeah, you know, obviously, you know, being relatively new to Florida, I don't have the contacts I need right now. That's a little scary.
Yeah, we can get there. Just have to go out and meet people. Anybody else have a number? So he's talking about 24 transactions.
I want to obviously be way above the number I'm going to say right now.
Okay. And this is the number for the next 12 months?
Yeah,
okay.
But and to me, this sounds like a lot for me right now because I haven't even sold one home. But I would love to, I mean, I'm a single mother.
It's been 2 weeks. What's going on?
I'm a single mother, and there's a certain life I want for me and my children, and the things I want them to be involved in, and what our life is. But so I would love to just be at over 100 grand for the year.
Okay.
And then obviously my future, I'd love it to be more than that.
And the 100 grand is
a very common number. Yeah. But for me right now, it feels
like a really big number.
Yeah,
it feels like a big number.
It's not a big number.
Logically, it's not a big
family
number
at all.
It's a big number when you start from zero.
Exactly.
That's true. It's further away. It's at its furthest part. It's at its furthest position.
It's the furthest away you'll ever be.
It's the furthest away that you'll ever be. Thank you. That's a better way to say it. Thank you. Jack is a very eloquent man. Any thoughts on what you're thinking?
Well, my goal, I know I told you like 8 to 12 properties, and then I changed it like 12. I can do one a month. It seemed a lot more possible when I had someone that would respond to me.
There will be another one.
Yeah.
There will be another one. And you know what? He's just part of the ones that are not responding.
Yeah.
So you got to fill that bucket as well as the other bucket.
I'll just put him on a smart plan and hopefully he comes back. But yeah. So 12 properties with your math, it was like 132,000. I think that's like, I'm in a position right now. It's no secret. Like I'm young. I'm not like the lights are going to shut off. I'm living at home. So it's not so much like that I need to like pay the bills. It's more like I want to set myself up so that I'm going to be flourishing.
Independence is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, my personal goal, I would love, I don't know like when I plan for this to happen, but I would love to have like investment properties in the future, and then at some point like just retire and then collect income that way. Maybe
so that could be one of the attachments that
that's one of my
that's one of the drivers. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would just love for this year, I just want to work on like knowing that that can happen in the future. Like if I meet my, what seems like a small, maybe big goal now, like if I can reach this goal, I think I'd be like on the right trajectory, I guess.
Oh, good.
It's like, it looks like a small goal, like when the examples you said are like 20 homes, but it's like big for me because.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's the furthest that you are. You
The
have to have
first
one.
one first.
You have to
you
get the
know.
first one first. Yeah, you really do. So all of those are things that can happen. It's really just about putting together what your plan is and doing the activities and inspecting it as you go along too. If you're not on your path to get there, then the plan has to be adjusted. And sometimes it's a matter of bringing people in to help do something, like an administrative person that's doing things for you because that's not in your wheelhouse, or learning how to do something so that you're better at it, so that it's not taking you as long and you're able to get in front of and contact more people. If your database is strong enough and big enough, you will have the transactions. So it doesn't shy away from that database. And growing that database, super important. Growing it and maintaining it, both of those things. They're equally as important, Anybody else? Anything else for us to move on? I want to talk about buyers as well, because it's over the weekend, so you're going to have some things that you're going to be needing to do, and make sure that we cover those. I don't know if Hilton is still on. If you're on, you're welcome to say something.
Yeah, sure, I'm still here. I appreciate everything that's being said. My goal pretty much is to, I think you know this very well, Susie, is to, in the next month or two, get to a point where I can commit myself every day, or at least 4 days a week, from 9 to 5 or 9 to 2 in real estate. I think I know what I need to do. I know what I want to do. For me, it's just always a matter of getting to do it. And then the finances will eventually come, right?
They do.
Yeah.
They do. Well, good. As a reminder, adding 10 people, and that can be right now as a newer person, the people that you already know. If you have not called them, texted, had two-way conversations in whatever format that is, I want you to keep in mind you should be having 10 conversations a day. It used to be that this only counted, and this is how you're building a successful real estate business, but it used to be it only counted if you actually had a phone conversation with them. I will say, if I use this as a platform, that the things that we can do today, if I use those at the beginning, I can say for myself, having 10 was a small number, because having conversations, that means I had to call like 30 people, if not more. These are people that I somehow knew to get them on the phone. Because 14 years ago, we didn't use Facebook the same way. It existed, barely, but it kind of, it like barely existed. So I had to make phone calls. We didn't really do text messages quite the same way either. We did them, but somebody would be like, why didn't you just get off the phone? What's wrong with you?
Totally different now.
Totally different now. Now it's like, why did you call me? Why didn't you text me? What's wrong with you? I answer if my best friend calls me, I'm like, everything okay? That's the first thing that I say.
Which is sad because people aren't communicating.
I know. There's like already been like 6 text messages for like a group of friends that I have. I was like, don't you guys have a job? Well, 3 of them are teachers. So they're out of school now. I'm like, some of us have jobs, guys, stop it. So adding 10 people to the database, again, everybody that you're adding now is part of that. So they're new at the moment, but once you get through with those, then you need to go and find more people. Having 10 conversations a day, and ideally you are having them in person or on the phone. However, if you do have that sprinkled with two-way conversations through text messages, private messages, Facebook, and social media, that's okay as well. Ideally, if you have the budget for it, if you can send people a card with your business card in it and do that 10 to 10 a day, I'll tell you, you will probably get there faster as far as your business because nobody sends cards. It can be a very professional, you don't have to spend a lot of money on cards, just get nice, simple cards from like TJ Maxx and stuff like that. They have cards, but keep them on the clean and simple, not the too much going on. Like they have a lot of things that are like super, super flowery or like a lot of stuff on them. Keep them a little bit simpler. And the follow-up that you met people at an open house, if you have their address, which I'll say is not a lot of that. The neighbor was there on Sunday, right? So I sent out a card to them because remember they had a son who was looking. I put my card in there. I was like, if you ever need anything, please feel free to give me a call. It was simple. I wasn't like fire the agent.
She enjoyed a lot of the information she got from you, so
I don't know. I think so. I felt that way. I could be wrong, which is why I kind of went a little bit deeper than I probably would have. But I did want to make sure, you know, I'm very passionate in the fact that there's a veteran that is not finding a house. That just bothers me as a whole, as a person. And then of course the 10 previews. You should be looking online. This is on the weekly basis. And whether you go to open houses, if you're not doing an open house, walk through the doors. And you could also be looking online if you're not able to get out that week for some reason. I'm not using that as our default. I want your default to be that you're walking through the doors. And we have a ton of new construction homes that you can go through and see them to get 10 a day. If that's, I mean, you could do a lot even in one day, or so 10 in a week.
As far as the new construction homes and previewing those, you need to go and take pictures?
You can if you, if you ask them, most of them are going to say yes. Once in a while, they're going to say no, even though people do it. That's all I'm saying about that. Whatever you decide to do is up to you.
What are the other benefits of it?
You need to know what the houses are like. Okay. You need to know what the neighborhoods are like. So if there's a community that's starting to be built out, if it has the one house, okay, maybe not so much, but you know, a lot of our neighborhoods are half built out, if not more, especially in Lakewood Ranch and Palmer Ranch and Sarasota. You can go into quite a few of them. Drive through the neighborhoods, go into the model homes. And if you don't want to be bought, now you could ask questions to the salesperson if there's not a ton of people there, which right now there's a ton of people there. So they really don't have time for you. And they really, for the most part, have no interest in having a conversation with you because they're just bombarded. But introduce yourself, give them a card, all that, say, just going to look around and haven't been in this model before. And they're fine. You definitely do that. And you should be doing that. Yeah. That's what the home buyers are doing. If you're not doing what the home buyer is doing, shame on you.
And there's tons of just even 5 minutes, not even from my house.
Yeah, there is no excuse.
I'm right there in that Harmony area.
I know.
It's like a bunch.
Yeah. If you haven't gone to the Welcome Center in downtown, in Main Street, go there. I know it's downtown. Go in and just ask them to do the walkthrough. Like as if they have, it's like, what is it that you go over when you're talking to a person who's looking to buy here? Now keep in mind, they could also be busy, so don't take away from people that are there. However, just listen or kind of hang out and find out some information.
And we should be going outside of Lakewood Ranch too.
You should, but if you happen to live here, many of us live basically right here. You do need to know this area. So if you don't know this area, start here. But Palmer Ranch is a really good sister neighborhood for you to see neighborhoods that are very, very similar because a lot of the builders are building in both. Yeah. So between those two, that could keep you busy for the next 2 months. Yeah. It really could. And I still want you to do the others, but if you haven't done a lot of that, then start with that. Okay. So we have talked about the scripts. Have you guys prepared and had a partner? Have you created hey, I'm going to call you? No. So we talked about that as a time, and I don't think that we came up with a time or a day for that to happen. What are you guys thinking?
I'm pretty flexible as long as I know a couple days ahead of time just for the kids.
Well, you guys talk for a second. I'm going to go grab the calendar to see, and maybe we can put something on the calendar. And I also want to tell you about Blake's class. So think of a time. By the time I come back.
You're not doing the day we're already here?
Sorry?
She's talking about doing that.
Do it wherever. Yeah. Okay. I've been in situations where I had, it's a phone call. Okay. And basically what you want to do is the more you verbalize the scripts, the more you get comfortable with them. migrate into who you are. Because you guys are not going to say the same thing, the same inflection that I would. Okay? You have to make it your own. Before you can make it your own, you have to know it. And that's the whole purpose behind script practice. And when somebody comes in and they find, you know, there's like a half a dozen questions you know are coming. All right. And you got to have an answer for it. The challenge is you can't make that answer sound like it's a canned response. You got to internalize.
Which is the practice is how you get past the can part because you're saying it enough that it becomes natural.
Yeah.
Because when you know, and when you talk about something that you've done before, if somebody were to ask you about the shopping things that you've done before, there are natural responses that you have. If somebody is asking you questions about baking or how to do something, when it comes to the bakery businesses that we had supplies as well. So we had a shop for you if you wanted to make your own cake, you have the stuff to actually do that. So I could tell someone how to melt chocolate or how to make icing because I knew how to do it and I had done it so many times and I had given the same advice so many times. That's what you have to get natural at. So other businesses that you've had, other things that you've done, you've got to be comfortable with that. So you could, I'm just saying this as a suggestion, what if you were to come in on Monday morning at 8:30 instead of at 9 and practice?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so 8:30 on Monday morning. Okay, I'll let some of the others know as well. Hilton, you could tune in or come in at 8:30 on Monday if you could. They're gonna do script practicing.
Susie, thank you. I'm actually gone the whole week next week. I'm away.
Oh. Okay. Well, yeah, fine. We didn't want you here anyway. I'm kidding.
I'm away the whole week.
Okay. All right. Well, have fun.
So what kind of
Thank you.
should we?
So I have these books, and you also have in Ignite. If you go in, and I've shown you how to get into Ignite, there is a script package.
Yeah.
So print it out or find it and say, this is the one that I want to use. And keep in mind what you're looking at doing, open houses or other things that you're going to do. Imagine that you're following up with people that you've done business with in your other business. What would you be saying? And there are scripts that make sense to that.
Well, my thing would be, so say after I meet somebody at an open house, and they want
the follow-up
script, and they want to start working with me, and then it's time to sit down and go over things with them about what they want.
We will prep you. So you have that meeting. So you're talking to somebody and they're like, oh yeah, can we meet on Saturday? Like, let's say you talk to somebody this afternoon and you're like, oh yeah, can we talk on, or, how about if we go and see houses tomorrow? Then call me, text me. And if it's not myself, I will get somebody to do a walkthrough with you on the room, like what that process looks like. Yeah. Yeah, we did that. It was kind of fast, and yet she was like, I'm showing a house tonight. And I'm like, okay, let's talk at 3. And yeah, so that's what we did. We'll prep you. Because the thing is, I don't know when that's going to happen. So we're trying to train you as much as possible for the whatever happens. I just don't know whatever it is that's going to happen. I don't know what that it is at this point. So, hers was a condo. If I told her how to show a single family home, that would have been almost irrelevant to the condo conversation. Like I said, things like, you gotta look for the lockbox. It may not be on the door. It could be like on the stairway or something like that. Or there were like things that I said. So I wanted to tell you for today, it is at what's that on here?
I only saw something for today for contracts, right? For contracts.
It was somewhere. Okay, give me 1 second. Well, I have something at 12. Hold on, because Blake is coming. 3 o'clock. I can't tell you why it's not on there, but it is 3 o'clock. Blake will be here. If you have the ability to be here at 3 o'clock, heavily recommended. Okay, so let's carry on. Let's move forward.
Can you quickly tell me how to find these scripts in Ignite?
Okay, so let me share the screen. So how you can find the Ignite materials when you're in here, which this is your main page. I get to this page by going mykw.kw.com. I can then go to any of these menu bars, and if you go to education, it takes you to Keller Williams University. We also use the term KW Connect. It's the same thing. In here on the side, you have Ignite 2.0 Lab. In here, we are in Ignite, and we can click on the materials, and on the left-hand side is your student files. It's the same type of things, but there is a little bit more on the instructor files. But we have the toolkit. If you click on the toolkit, it'll take you to a zip file. It takes me to a zip file. I can then open up that zip file, and it shows script books. There's 2.
So for this weekend, would you recommend like we pick a script or 2, like a certain scenario to practice with, and then kind of use that one for Monday?
Use that one for Monday. Yep, absolutely. But imagine with what you have going on right now, and whether it's like you're contacting the people in your database, which are from the shopping thing, which one would be appropriate? If you have to make a slight adjustment because you know, the people that you're calling, it's from the shopping business, then that's the only part that you're really tweaking is that specific item. The rest of it, keep it per script until you learn it so that you can then internalize it so that when you say it, it's then going to be natural. So you may say it's like, that doesn't really sound like me. Well, it will when you learn what you're saying. Once you learn what you're supposed to say, you will then have it internalized. And then when you say it, it will sound like you. Because you'll naturally use the words and the inflections that are more you. Okay. So just going to run through some items when it comes to our appointments with our buyers. Oops. I've gone over this part, and just as a reminder, you do need to have more people than you are expecting to have contracts with. So you have that big funnel. If you meet, or even if you have in your database 200 people, 200 of them are not going to say, yes, please sell me a house. It's not going to be 200 of them. It's going to filter down to where you're going to have some people that say, yeah, I have an interest in doing that in the near future. And so that's just a few, that's the small group. And then as it gets even smaller, you get to the point that, yes, you're writing contracts or listing their home. So you've got to have a big funnel that gets you to that point. So when you do talk to the people from your other database, from other work experiences, or from the people that are associated with the kids, when you get to that and you have somebody that says, yeah, you know, we're kind of thinking about it. It's like, well, you know, how about if we get together? So it might be that you're getting together, and in some cases, because it's a friend, it might be that you're going to go out to dinner with someone or go and have drinks or go somewhere. You could still have let's take from that, you're going to go to dinner, in your mind have, well, for 10 minutes, we're going to talk about what it's like to buy a house right now. Now that would be more conversational, and yet that still is a conversation that you're having that's a little bit more like a presentation, and you might even bring them some stuff. Like, it's okay. I've met up with people and they have some questions and stuff. It's like, you know what, we talked a little bit about this. I just brought you some stuff. You can look at it later, but I did want to answer any questions and then go into a little bit of a more casual conversation. It's not the full on, I'm sitting here in front of you giving you this presentation with all these papers and something on the wall and all that. It doesn't have to be that way, and yet you should get across some of the important items. So let's say they've said, yes, I'm looking to buy a house. So you've set that appointment and you are there with them, whether it's virtually, on the phone, or in person. What is it that you need to have for that appointment? So we do have wonderful Command, talked about it a lot. In Command, there is a presentation. Have you guys gotten to that point yet?
Yes, and actually on the technology Thursday with Blake, I was talking because it doesn't let you edit it. Like I edited the whole thing, like put in sample client names and stuff, and then once you go back to the page you were just on, like you edit page 1, you go to page 2, you go back to page 1, it's like white. So Did you
save?
No, I did. I tried. I was like, do I need to save each page individually? And he tried doing that. It didn't work. So he made a note of it. That was for both the buyer's presentation and the listing presentation.
Okay, so check with him this afternoon and see if that's been corrected. And whenever you're doing something in the system, and I'm not dismissing, Command is, it's a work in progress. It's better than it was 6 months ago. And yet it's a system, so there will be glitches from time to time. Here's what I would also say is if you are to go into something that's labor intensive and you're making changes and all that, hit save, then go back to it and see if it actually saved is probably just a good policy. And yet I'm not dismissing, it should not be doing that. I apologize for that extra work. As Blake said, took a note, screenshot, sent it to the right person because he is one of our tech, he is a certified tech trainer with Keller Williams, and so he knows where to get it to the right place. I just sent it to like a blast email to like 4 or 5 people. Help, please fix. Yeah, I'll like to get it from me because I never sent it to the right person. Okay, so as far as the system, I'm going to let you guys do your presentations, but I am going to at least show you one thing as far as where they are, just to make sure that everybody knows. If you are in your Keller Williams system, and you either click on this button that says Command, or the button changes when you're watching this, and under technology, it also has Command, and you log in. And I go over here to design. So on the left-hand side, it's a little paint palette. When you're on this screen, it's not going to be here, and yours is probably not going to have the items that I have here. Yours may actually be blank if you haven't done anything before.
Mine's blank.
Yeah, definitely going to be blank. You go here and to print, whether you end up ever printing it or not.
Wait, what did you use?
The plus sign.
Oh.
Right-hand corner plus sign.
Yeah.
Then you get to where there's a ton of templates. So you see you've got all of these different templates that are here. There's a lot.
What did you print out? What do I do from here?
Print.
Oh, print.
So there's a ton of things that are in here. And there are pictures that you can use that you could use even in your social media if you wanted to use for postings. Like this one here that has a beautiful kitchen. If you're looking at, oh, how can I add things to my social media? Well, yay, you've got pictures. And I'm not dismissing, Canva is phenomenal. If you have not spent time in Canva, love Canva. Highly recommend Canva.
So why does mine do that? It won't let me get to that. Sorry, I'm not trying to be all like my tech person right now.
If you did the blue button. Oh.
Okay, so if I go back.
Refresh the screen, because sometimes it just is like catching.
And then hit this
And then hit the plus button.
And then print.
Oh, I don't know yet. Looks like it's thinking though.
Yeah, it didn't do that.
It didn't do that before. Could have just been caught. Yeah. Yeah. Because all of these are templates. I didn't do these. And then as far as your presentation, you can go over here to, because we're talking about buyers right now, go to my buyer, there's a buyer presentation. So it's like magic, well, except when it doesn't work. It's magic that you have, oh, they added something.
Yeah, Instagram, I don't think that was there, like even yesterday.
There were only 4 of these. maybe 5. There was only a top line like 2 days ago. So this is cool. Guide to home ownership. Oh, awesome stuff. I don't know what it says, but it looks pretty cool. So that's something else that you could have. Now, in the open house, if you were to have someone, which it wasn't that type of house at the open house that we did, but if you had an open house and you had someone that it was the first time they were going to buy a house, if you have something like this printed out, I actually had a stack of things. If you don't, you may or not, same thing, it was similar on Sunday, was that people were there early, but I did have papers that I could have put into a folder and handed them. This would be a fabulous piece of collateral that they then have that has your information on it, because each item, when you use it, you have the ability to just click on it. Again, hit save. If it's not saving, let us know, send a note. At the moment, you would send it to Blake. But you're able to add your own information.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's already done for you.
Right.
Like, you do not have to create this. You could go to an appointment and have something that looks professional on day 1.
We were able to put on.
Yeah, you're able to. So like on the front page, you can go here. Oh, I think I'm signed in as Sam. So let's say I wanted this. I just touched it and it came over here, and then I can move it. I can put it somewhere. You're going to take a few minutes to kind of figure out the system, but if you've ever done anything with PowerPoint or something like that, it kind of works the same way as a lot of Microsoft tools. And so there's lots of stuff that's there. So if you wanted to meet with a buyer tomorrow, as far as like papers to give them, or like a flyer or a booklet of some sort, we already have it. You just need to make it your own. Now, on the social media aspect, you could make some posts that talk about, you know, anybody looking to buy their first home, make it a little bit more creative than that. But you can have this saved to where, you know, send me a private message and I can send it over to you. And you could have something like that you have either saved in Google Drive and then send it a link, or save it as a landing page. There's all different things that you could do. But you could get it, you know, send me your email and I'll send it over to you. And then, you know, you're looking like a superstar because it's like, oh yeah, I've got that. And you can turn it into something else as well. If you don't like the pictures and you want to be more creative, I think I've said this before, although it's worth saying again, not the most creative person in the world. Love copying stuff, which is why I love Canva. So that's how that works. Let's go back to the other items. I don't know, so I know. Oh, I'm still there. There we go. So please, where you are in your business, and all of you, Charlie, you might be about a week behind this. I would say whether it's this coming week or the following week, spending some time and having your presentations to where, if nothing else, it has you've taken and made sure that your name is in the presentation. It wouldn't really take all that long. There's 2 steps to this. Take it, make sure that your information is on it. That is good enough for you to be able to hand out to somebody. And then, of course, if you wanted to spend more time and add a little bit more graphics, like maybe some of the pictures of homes are not quite like a Florida home, go out and start taking some pictures. If you're in the street, for the most part, pictures can be taken. Don't take them of like somebody's home, but like model homes, stuff like that when you can, and add that to your presentation. And there you go. You've got something that's Florida homes. That is the one caveat. You will see a lot of things in here. It's like, yeah, houses here don't look like that. So you might have to do that, but it's easy here. On your way driving home, take some pictures. Yes?
I had a question because the first time I went through and edited it, it kind of had like a samples little mini CMA page where it had like 4 pictures you could put like, so if you had 4 homes like that you would use in the CMA, like do you have to go
Get permission?
Get permission from the listing agent way back when? Or?
So no, what would happen is if you were going to a presentation and you had some CMA material, so the easy way to do that is in MLS, there is a way to print out from an actual, it turns it into a CMA. So I would say the easy way is to actually take some of those pages from the MLS system that will create it for you, and that you would just supplement. And so that page, instead of it being from here to where you've copied and pasted, and that's a whole lot of extra work that you don't really need, you then would have those pages. That's the easy way. Now, if you do want to have it that it's more that it's branded with you, you could do some snapshots because you're handing it over to them as info that is data about you being an agent, then you can, as long as you're not telling them that it's your listing. Yeah, and you have like presented by and have their name or something like, that part of it, then you'll be okay. But don't ever say, it's like, here's the 5 listings that I sold in the neighborhood and you didn't sell any of them. Can't do that. So words matter. So just as a reminder, and for the last 10 minutes here, what this presentation is going to have in it is going to have about them. The presentation has a lot of pages in it, and yet you may not decide to use all of the pages. But once again, step 1, just change the names and make sure that your information is listed in there. Then learning how to present it is your second step, and making it more your own. So there are things in here, go through them, read it, make sure it makes sense to you. Also make sure that it makes sense for the market that we're in right now. So sometimes there's going to be a bit of a reference. For the most part, it tends to talk about things in a kind of balanced way, that it's not a crazy seller market or it's not a crazy buyer's market. It's a little bit in the middle of the road, so that as long as you're in that, on either side of that fence, it kind of makes sense. But the market that we have right now, if there's any reference and has anything other than that the market is crazy, then that little sentence you might want to change just a little bit. So it talks about the different things that we have as real estate agents and what's important. You do want to ask, what's the best time to reach them? What is it that they're looking for in your communication style? Emails, text messages, phone calls. Most of the time, you're going to have people say things other than phone calls. So don't feel like they're trying to give you a cold shoulder at all. It just tends to be that people are busy and they lean on the other things. Text messages and emails are good. I would also say, if they were to say, please send me a text message, it's like, is there any way that we can just touch base and have a phone call before we go out and see homes? It could be as small as 5 minutes. I just want to just have a conversation. You'll get further with them with that. It's hard to read the text messages. I can't tell you. Often I'll have an agent that does a screenshot of a message and it's like, I don't think they like me, or I think they're ready to
tell emotions.
It's so hard to tell emotions. Like, they really like this house. It's like, because they said, we really like this house. It's like, well, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to like it when they get, when they get there. So it's so hard. But when you hear them and you're able to decipher through that communication, for one thing, you're building the relationship, which is important. And you also can ask more questions. So this just goes through your basic conversation. And this is the documents that support the conversation that you're having with them. So this isn't a matter of when you have a presentation with someone that you just kind of hand this over and say, ask me, let me know if you have any questions. You want to get into those relationships with them so that you hear what's important. You may have heard when we were at the open house that sometimes I would ask something like, was that like a must, or is that something that, it would be great if we had that, but it's not a necessity, or I phrased it differently. And that's truly, it's like there's a wish list and there's a must have. A little bit about the neighborhoods. If you get this far, but I'll tell you, if somebody is contacting you, it's like, oh, can we chat, in an hour? This is not, don't spend an hour putting together a neighborhood snapshot to send over to them, which the system has the ability to do some of that, but you may not be there yet. Just don't have this page and have it more as a verbal conversation. Talks about what this is going to be like as far as buying buying a home. And then there's a variety of others. If you haven't noticed, for the most part, there's little about, I am great. Stay away from the, let me tell you all about me and how wonderful I am when it comes to a presentation. So I think that you might already know that part of it, but for the most part, people care about themselves way more than they care about you. They want you to take care of them, which then goes back to them. So be careful about the, here's everything about me. Here's why I can be the best person for you. There's a little bit of the, here are the things that I want to do to make sure that I find you a home and help you. Yeah, you want to have a little bit of that, but less of the word I and more about you. So with this type of a page, you can still put in things that you've done, you know, being in customer service for the past 5 years, running a business for this. I had marketing, which was a big name because my family we had our bakeries, and we also did wholesale to South America as far as like supplies for other bakeries. So when I started in real estate, it was all about the marketing, because after that I was in pharmaceutical, management, but we handled the marketing for pharmaceutical reps. So I just kind of put it into a big bucket that I was in marketing when I started for over 20 years. I mean, I was in different industries, and yet marketing was a huge part of it. I had to always go out and find new clients. That was my job. And how do we do that? So this is something that the bio that Scott Leroy Marketing will ask you about. If you haven't done that yet, you could take that same bio and put it here. And simple is okay. This has like 3 paragraphs. It doesn't have to have 3 paragraphs. It could have just like 4 or 5 sentences would be fine. So we've kind of gone through, quite a bit of it. And I want to put a bit of a bow, because most of the other things are actually when it comes to our technology. So please continue to go through different trainings that we have with Blake here, as well as when he does things online. And also Scott Leroy does so much online. Scott and his team do so many things that are online, and then additional classes that we have here in the office. There is something called a buyer's agreement. And the idea behind the buyer's agreement is, and there is a document that supports this, is you're looking for them to agree to work with you. So most of the time, this isn't appropriate to say at the open house, you meet somebody, and then 2 minutes later, it's like, okay, well, now that you've agreed to work with me, I'm going to have you sign this document. That typically doesn't go very well. And I'll say for myself personally, until I start working with them, that's when the agreement comes into play for myself. There are others that go through, they'll spend the 10-minute full-on presentation, which we didn't have time to do that at the open house, but they'll do that presentation, or they'll do a smaller part of that presentation. And at the end of it, it's basically asking the question, it's like, well, you know, I want to make sure that tomorrow morning when I start working for you to find you that home, that you're not working with any other agents. And so to do that, we do have what's called a buyer's agreement. And you're really just signing something and telling me that, yes, when you wake up tomorrow, that you, not me, sorry, saying you, I'm talking to you guys, that when I wake up tomorrow, I want to know that I am working for you. And so this is really just an agreement that that is the case. In addition, and you went through the agency, did you watch that video yet?
Yeah.
So also there is something called the agency agreements, and that's that you're working as a single agent, a transaction agent, or a single agent with the ability to transition to transaction. So that's a bit of a mouthful that I just said now. I want you to just keep in mind that when you actually start working with someone, you have to solidify that relationship by explaining to them that there are a few different ways that we can work as agents. That is the right way to do it in the state of Florida. You're supposed to have that conversation with them. I will tell you, probably 90% of the agents out there do not have that conversation. And it might even be closer to 95% of the agents do not have a conversation like that. So basically, if you think of it, this is the way that I was taught. Imagine you're at a cocktail party, or do we even have those anymore? Imagine you're at a party. So many things are different nowadays. If you're at a party, and it's like everything's social, it's like, you're a real estate agent, you're having things. And then somebody actually says, well, yeah, I'm actually thinking of selling my home. So the way I was described, and I just think it's a very good visual, so tell me if you feel the same way. So everything is very, very social. Whether however it is that you do, it's like all of a sudden you have now just been asked a real estate question. You now are a real estate agent. It is not about the 5 champagnes that you've had or whatever, whatever you're doing that you just had. You have to say, okay, now as a real estate, it's like, well, thank you for asking that. And so actually as a real estate agent, there's something that I need to explain to you before I even go into what's happening or what would be entailed in selling your home. And I need to explain to you that I can work as many different types of agents. One of them is that I'm what's called a single agent. And that means that I am doing, and there's a list of things, but for the most part, I have a fiduciary responsibility to work for you, and that everything that I do is on your behalf. And that has nothing to do with any buyer that comes in to sell your home. As a transaction broker, I work for both people, and I really am just facilitating paperwork. So I can't know, it's really not in your best interest for you to share personal information about selling your home, what your bottom line is, all of that financial advice. I am really just there to facilitate the paperwork. The same thing with a buyer. And that will happen if I happen to bring a buyer to your home. So what you may not know is that most agents in the state of Florida actually work as a transaction broker, but in disguise, they're actually giving you real estate advice. And that is not actually something that we're able to do. So you can't have both sides of that. You can't be at arm's length and not be able to give advice and then start giving advice. So I'm either going to choose one or the other, or I can start off as a single agent and then transition into a transaction broker if I happen to bring in the buyer. That sounds like a whole lot. I kind of gave you probably more than you needed at this point. We do have the video where the broker has done it, and we will have classes.
I know we learned that.
You learned it in the class.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little confusing.
It is. And
not
it's still
exactly how to do it smoothly, though,
Yeah, and honestly, they're probably only going to hear about 5 of those words, but you still have to deliver that information. And then the proper way, because I am a real estate professional, so I would say it basically like this. So the proper way, and because I'm a real estate professional and I am very fond of the real estate license that I have and I'd like to keep it, something that I have to do is I will send you something via email and you just need to sign that I actually did give you that information. Because that's the right way. In the state of Florida, if you, in theory, you haven't delivered that information until they have signed that they have received it. From a legality perspective, you can say whatever you want, but if they didn't sign something saying that you said it, in the eyes of the law, you didn't actually say it. That kind of like a whole bunch of stuff that I just threw at you. So with all of that being said, there is a buyer representation agreement. We do have a video and we will have more classes on it, but I did want to at least touch upon that. So that is that. Any questions? I want to wrap this up. Yeah. Want to wrap this up? You guys have lots of stuff to do.
I know. I had a question.
Yeah, please.
I saw somewhere, and I can't remember exactly what I was on. Was it the Keller Williams homepage or what? When new agents are posting, and I'm trying to figure out what page it was on, saying I'm available. I'm
for open houses?
I'm available. I can do an open house.
Was it either on Facebook or did it look like something else?
I'm trying to remember how to get back to that because I wanted to.
Might
get
have
that.
been on the intranet.
Exactly. So let me show you.
Because I saw some newer agents, like say in the Tampa area, posting that, and I forget where I was at.
Yeah, if you go to connect through Command, there's you can see there's 2 groups, one for the North Florida region.
Oh, yes.
One for this office.
Oh,
so
yes.
I've seen people posting
So it's the North Florida region is what it was doing. So we are in the North Florida region. Keller Williams is set up into regions. I It's still kind of weird though, just so you know, there's like 2 Tampa offices that are in the South region. Whole history and story behind all that, but yeah, we are in the North region. So if you're on this page,
Yeah. The bottom right is that.
bottom right is the intranet.
Right.
And in this, it's called the blend. I'll tell you, it's not used a lot, but we do have agents that have been with us for a long time that do like to post things here. So as you can see, there's something in Moat Ranch. And
So
Crazy
what I was on
so there's a variety of things.
Yeah.
I was on something that was a little different.
Did you get to it through command?
I don't know.
Like if you go in command and then you go to your like personal profile.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Yeah. And then you go.
So what do I hit after? Oh, go to command.
Yeah, it's in. Because I kept going there accidentally when I was looking for something else. So I've had like a lot of practice getting there.
Okay. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'll end this. And so let me stop this meeting.